We have got sitting right here as Jim Kelly has departed. He is now inside the luncheon room down the hall from us, where not only is there a big luncheon going on, there's an open bar that was just going on down the hall.
You guys need anything?
No, I don't know. We can maybe get something. Do you think, before we get to our guests here, do you think that Jim Kelly's drink was leaded or unleaded?
It was very leaded.
You think so?
Yes.
So Jim is now in the luncheon room, and joining us right here are the two men who called the Hall of Fame game last night on NBC, the voices of Sunday Night Football in America, Al Michaels, Cris Collinsworth, together. Good to see you guys.
Together again.
What up, man? Your voice sounds unbelievable, and it's like, oh, you're like the voice of God. You're like
thank you,
John
Chris.
Facenda. Here we go.
Why, thank you, Chris.
Are these the Ice Cube cans?
I don't know.
Are these,
no.
I don't know. Who? Jay-Z? Who has those
Dr.
cans?
Dre.
Dr. Dre.
You got to get your own. Your logo is the best.
Beats
I love
by Rich.
The logo. You just put you running on the side of some beats.
Yeah, there it is. It's on the mic cube that's right there in front of you. You guys, how many interviews do you guys do together? Is this a rarity that the two of you guys sit down and do this together?
Has never happened before.
Are you serious?
No, it's.
I can't get him off Bel Air Country Club. How's he going to do an interview?
You know that. We'll be out there next week, you and me.
Oh, if there's a Lord in the golf heaven, I look forward to that.
I'm available anytime.
No, you're not. Actually, you're not. You're on jury duty next week, aren't you?
No, I got to postpone.
Okay.
You can take my role. I caddy. So
Thanks.
it's fun.
Good to see you guys. What do you think of when you see all these guys walking around here, Al? I mean, you called many of these people's careers who are walking around in gold jackets.
Pretty amazing. It's almost like, you're a kid when you have the bubblegum cards. And they all come to life.
Yeah.
We've seen all of these guys for so many years. And it's funny, even though some of them you haven't seen for 20, 25 years, you immediately recognize them when they walk by. And, their body shape has changed, obviously, through the years. And they look, 25, 30 years older. But they look good. And, it's what impresses me the most is how excited they are, how ebullient they are, because they all come here, they get together. And it's spectacular, and that's why I think so many of them come back every year to be a part of getting back together with a group of people who are obviously extremely special.
And what do you think, Chris, when you're just strolling around here?
I associate immediately plays that I remember from those guys, moments.
Like which? Is there one in particular?
Well, Kenny Easley last night. And so Kenny Easley, there was a play we played on opening day one time. And Boomer threw me a pass right over the middle. They blew the coverage. So I'm sitting there literally by myself. I turn around and sort of do this little dance like, oh, nobody's here to hit me. I'm going to run. So I take off and go running. And Eddie Brown was deeper on the route, and he starts coming back towards the line of scrimmage. And Kenny Easley was chasing me. He was the only one left that was going to catch me. I'm going to score an 80-yard touchdown. I never scored an 80-yard touchdown before in my life. And so I'm taking off, and Eddie Brown shoots about waist high at Kenny Easley to like throw a block at him. Easley does this Ronaldo Nehemiah hurdle over Eddie Brown, never breaks stride, and catches me on the 9-yard line just as easily as, and he gets up like it was nothing. I'm like, that's the greatest football play I've ever, and I was involved. I was so honored. I was involved in that play. That's unbelievable.
I've got Cris Collinsworth and Al Michaels sitting here on the Rich Eisen Show studio. And then, tonight with the jacket dinner, and you see all the returning Hall of Famers. Jim Brown is going to be here, and he is the guy who is the most tenured returning Hall of Fame member from the class of 1971. That we are going to see tonight. And it's always great to see him here in the state of Ohio. Do you have any good Jim Brown story from the Al Michaels Rolodex from back in the day at all, Al?
I got to see him play live a couple of times, too. And then I actually wound up having dinner with him about 3 months ago. Bob Costas was out in L.A., and, Bob has the obvious Syracuse connection. Mm-hmm. So it was great. And what impresses me most, Jim has been very active on a lot of different fronts through the years, and I have tremendous respect for the man. And he's still sharp as a tack, and he's a guy who, you look at his career, he could have gone longer, too. That was pretty spectacular. They're talking about Terrell Davis, and, his career was truncated by the injury. You think about Gale Sayers, of course, same thing. Sandy Koufax in baseball. Jim Brown could have gone a lot longer than he did, but, amazing what he did and what he's done in the afterlife is something very special.
Yeah, he said that he just one day realized instead of playing football, like, here's your coat, Mr. Brown, here's your car, Mr. Brown, and then that's Raquel Welch in the corner is what he said. That he just decided that was the end of all that. People that you played with are here in this Hall of Fame as well, Chris. What do you think of when you see these guys who you have done battle with, not just against, as you mentioned there?
Well, Anthony Munoz is the first one that always comes to my mind, and he's the only player for the Cincinnati Bengals in the Hall of Fame, which is pretty amazing. So I'll campaign for Kenny Anderson again, but, whatever. But Anthony Munoz, he had a nickname that I thought was the greatest nickname I'd ever heard. He was called the Eraser, and I'll tell you why. Because they would get up, Jim McNally, our offensive line coach, great offensive line coach, would get up and he would draw the running game. Back in the day, it was on the chalkboard, so we were doing all this stuff. And literally, this is how we game planned every week. So he would draw up the blocking schemes, and he would show you block him, and you block him, and you block him. And then he would take Anthony and his guy and erase him. So we know this guy's taken care of. And so he became the eraser. That's exactly what it is. So he never had a game plan because McNally knew that guy was just going to be erased from the field.
Just erased him. Yeah. When you think about that too, his hands, when you see Anthony Munoz's hands, just fingers are not supposed to go in that certain perpendicular manner. And you take a look at some of these guys who are here and what they have left on the field and what it means to them to return here as well. I mean, it's really something else when you think about it.
Oh, it's the history of pro football is what it is, and you watch it through, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and now you've got guys going in there who played in the 2000s. So it's amazing to me because you would think a guy who's had a fantastic career and is a lock to go into the Hall of Fame, he would be. I'm not saying he'd be jaded, but, he would expect to be here. Mm-hmm. But even when these guys who will definitely be locks to get in here right away get in, something overtakes them, and you can see the emotion and all of that. Last night we had, Tony Dungy was in the booth with us, and you could just tell me he just sparkles when he thinks about this thing. And a lot of these guys would not miss 1 year of coming back here and being a part of this thing. I mean, it really is. They exude the specialness of what this is. It's very, very unique.
And it's amazing, a guy like Kurt Warner. When you think of the odds, I mean, try to put together the Vegas odds that Kurt Warner could have possibly been in the Hall of Fame. It was impossible. This guy's stocking shelves in Iowa somewhere.
Played in the Arena League.
Played in the Arena League. I was messing around a little bit before, but I was thinking, the Arena League made him. I mean, think about it. If you're the quarterback and you've only got 3 offensive linemen in front of you, what are you going to do? You're going to get the ball the hell out of your hands, right? You're getting rid of that football.
And that's
the way he played it.
And now he's here at the Hall of Fame. We're going to take a break. When we come back, one more segment, we'll talk a little bit of here and now with Al Michaels and Cris Collinsworth from the Cris Collinsworth and Al Michaels here for a second segment. Now our number 2, Steve Largent, Pro Football Hall of Famer. We're going to pluck him out of the Ray Nitschke luncheon room shortly. Sunday night football getting set for yet another season on NBC, and it's pretty neat. There is a Sunday night football, I guess, area display that's just right around the corner.
Yeah,
that's right here.
We just cut the ribbon.
Congratulations on that.
It's very cool. It's we heard about it, but to see the way they set it up, and then they roll tape of some of the great Sunday night games, and we've only been on the air for 11 years. But it's amazing when you see some of these plays roll by, and Chris and I are standing there going, wait a minute, remember that? We did that. It's an amazing compilation. And a lot of the folks were coming by, the people visiting the Hall of Fame and stopping and watching the tape go by and enjoying what they did. They did a great job with it.
So do you remember which show it was that – so what the deal is, it's 6 straight years as the number 1 primetime show, right, which is amazing. And for me – my favorite show as a kid growing up was All in the Family. I loved All in the Family. I thought that was the funniest show I've ever seen in my life. And Archie Bunker, the whole thing. And
Meathead.
Yeah, and they were 4 straight years as the number 1 show?
I think they were 5, I think.
5, yeah. Whatever it was. But, these your favorite shows kind of thing growing up, American Idol, and all these great shows that had these incredible runs. that now we're tied with the longest streak. So we just can't screw it up. Now we
got to set the record this year.
Keep it going.
We're going for 7.
Does that make you the Archie Bunker of this, Al?
Well, I see Norman Lear once in a while in our favorite restaurant, Toscana, in L.A., and I want to be able to diss him the next time I see him, to supplant him.
You took him down. You took down Norman.
Norman, you're done. You're finished. You might be 94 and he looks great, but you're finished.
So, which game, I guess, when you saw that out there, are you, I guess, most proud of, or you think that stands out, Chris, of these games that you've been able to be a part of here the last 11 years?
It's funny. The one that popped up on the screen first when I was watching it was the 4th and 2, where the Patriots decided to go for it on 4th down, basically not wanting to have to punt the ball back to Peyton Manning on their own side of the field. And any other coach, you would have said, what are they doing? But you knew Belichick had a plan, and he had the math behind him, and he had the history, and he knew his defense at that moment. We've been watching the game. They weren't going to stop Peyton Manning, and they didn't when they turned it over either. But I just remember, and then there's this great shot that our guys had of Belichick after Peyton threw the winning touchdown pass, taking his hands and just rubbing him over his face like, wait a minute, the computer malfunctioned on that one or something. It's just... And there are just so many of those kind of great just shots, those great looks that you have. Tom Brady jumping up and down on the sideline in the Super Bowl when Malcolm Butler made the interception. And those moments, they define your life in some ways.
Yeah, and that shot of Richard Sherman looking up in pain at the very same moment where he realizes that the Super Bowl has just gone down the tubes. And in a way, I mean, of all the storylines that we've heard in the last several weeks and months, and Richard has even said this, it seems as if Seattle still has not gotten past that moment that you guys called that night and that short yardage situation.
Yeah, it's just to go back for 1 second to what Chris was talking about here. Sure. We get those shots because, you know Fred Gaudelli and Drew Esikoff, and I've worked with Drew 18 years now, Fred 17. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't happen. That's all preparation. I mean, and when people can sit at home and watch the reaction shots, I mean, you can't plan every reaction shot, but these guys are so good at knowing where they might want to be to punch up a shot, and that's why you see things like that. Meanwhile, with Seattle, I mean, they're one of the more interesting teams to watch this year, obviously, because, Richard is a fascinating guy, and I think he's as bright as they come in the National Football League. He really sees the whole picture. He's in our meetings. We love talking to him, and he says what he thinks. And you get that whole different kind of dynamic up there. But they have been very successful, and you have that moment in the Super Bowl. Do you say, can you get past it? Well, they go to the playoffs the following year. Get really lucky on the missed kick in Minnesota. But that's still a team to be reckoned with right now. And I'd put them as among the favorites, I would say, to wind up back there again.
That was, just to brag on my partner for a minute, though. That call was an amazing call by Al, because you have to remember Malcolm Butler really was an afterthought in that game. He replaced somebody who was having a poor game and came in, and then of course the play right beforehand. But I was watching the play not on a monitor. I was watching it live on the field, and I'm a freely admit to the world, I didn't know what happened on that play. I saw the collision, but I didn't know who had the ball, and I didn't know exactly what had happened. It was such a bang-bang kind of play. And Al was like, dude, I mean, just had it. He just had it from the moment that it happened. And the emotion, I can remember, and Al obviously was finishing calling the play, and it seemed like 30 seconds or a minute went by, and I'm just going through every scenario in my brain of why the Seattle Seahawks threw the ball in that situation. And I go, I am missing something. There's something I'm not thinking about here. And obviously, the Patriots had their goal line defense in, and they had their 3 wide receivers. And then the whole timeout scenario comes about. Now, why isn't Belichick calling the timeout? Well, he's got the matchup that he likes. So he's almost forcing them to throw the ball, which is his only chance to hear. Now, is Seattle going to take a timeout in order to give them a chance to get their goal line offense on and try and run it in with. I mean, there's like a billion things going through, and the only thing that could come out of my mouth is, I can't believe that call. I'm like, oh, you could have done a little more analysis than that, but that was all my brain. Actually, it was a little more of an expletive that was coming out, and I settled on that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why they're still talking about it today. I mean, that moment that you guys called right there, and interesting also, you called the Blair Walsh missed kick as well.
Right.
And you want to just to continue on about how, you know how I feel about your guys' broadcast, okay? That shot of the sun going down and you saw the silhouettes of people breathing in that cold air. It was something out of NFL films from the 60s.
It was something from Mars.
It was. I think that was maybe the line that you even used at the
I can't
time.
remember, or Jupiter. I mean, that was another planet.
And then your broadcast in terms of every time there's a penalty, and because I think you speak to fans, and the thing that frustrates people the most is those third down illegal contact penalties that are on the other side of the field, or one of those holding penalties when the ball's already down the field and you didn't even see it occur. You guys have it. It's every time that there is a penalty, there's a replay of it. And Fred Godelli and Drew Esikoff, your producer and director, are top-notch. And it's another reason why I'm excited about Thursday Night Football being associated with NFL Network and NBC. In terms of the Seattle Seahawks, the NFC is wide open to me. The AFC, we're all just assuming you guys are going to see New England and Minnesota again, unless the Raiders can come with enough wins to perhaps force Brady to get on a plane to play an AFC championship game this year. Would you agree with that assessment, you two guys?
You know, people are talking about the Patriots going 16-0. I mean, it's ridiculous to talk about that at this point.
19-0.
19-0, whatever it would be.
You.
Well, you got to start with 16 before you get to 19. You know, we love sports because you don't know what's going to happen. You just don't know. I mean, you want to go back to 2008? What happened to Tom Brady on opening day in the first quarter? Mm-hmm. Out for the season. So Matt Castle came in. He did a great job. Went 11-5. That team didn't get to the playoffs. I'm not saying, you know, you're looking for somebody to get hurt, but you don't know what's going to happen between now and February the 4th, or I can't remember what day, 4th or 5th for the Super Bowl. So you just don't hand them the trophy. Now, are they good? Of course, they're great. It's a great team. Great coach, great quarterback, great a lot of things. They've gotten better. But, Rich, you know, just because it looks that way on paper doesn't necessarily mean it winds up that way. So I think it's always going to be an exciting season. Tell me a year when everything worked out according to what you thought at the beginning of the year. Never.
You know what's amazing is that nobody's talking about the Atlanta Falcons.
That's true.
It's amazing. I mean, here's a team that had the world champs down 28-3, and probably but for the fact their defense had to defend 94, 95 plays, completely exhausted, completely wore themselves out. Everything fell into place for the New England Patriots that had to fall into place. And yet, at halftime, think of what you were thinking. You were thinking, is this the end of an era? Is this the Patriots? They're only winning about half the Super Bowls that they're in. Does Brady now give way to Garoppolo?
No question.
Is Belichick not the genius? Do we have a new era now with what's going on in Atlanta? Mm-hmm. The Falcons fans, I was there in the stadium, they're taking celebratory pictures with the field in the background. And this thing, and in one half of football, the universe changed, and now we're talking about the Patriots going 19-0. I can't remember one person having a legitimate conversation about the Falcons winning the Super Bowl this year during the entire offseason.
That's true.
And because of one half and one overtime period of football.
And that's just, I guess, the hangover aspect that everyone's expecting Atlanta to have. And plus the NFC South is always gets refreshed where somebody from the bottom finishes on top. That might be it. And then there's Dallas, who you guys saw somewhat last night. I mean, obviously the starters weren't out there. What do you think of Dallas's opportunity to take a step forward and get Jerry Jones a ring in the year that he gets his jacket?
I like their chances. I mean, you've got Prescott. He's the real deal. I mean, I'd be shocked if Dak Prescott doesn't follow it up with, you know, at least a pretty good year or a very good year. Elliott, we don't know about him at the beginning of the season, but he led the league in rushing. You know, the line is great. You got Dez Bryant. You got some other pretty good receivers. Kind of a revamped defense, but probably good enough. Opening night's going to tell us a lot. Giants at Dallas. I mean, the Giants were the problem for Dallas last year. Beat them twice.
And, I think, in the couple minutes I have left here, I do want to hit Jerry Jones before you guys have to go. When he took over that team, and it was one of the first things he did was tell Tom Landry thanks for the memories. And then the Jimmy Johnson stuff happened. To say that he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame now, did anybody see that coming? I mean, Chris, when you remember the way he took over that team, and now here he is, he's going to get his jacket and his bust.
Well, that was arguably one of the greatest teams ever assembled. So, yeah, I think you win 3 Super Bowl championships in 4 years, and the trade with Herschel Walker and the firing of the coach and Jimmy Johnson coming in and doing all the things that he did, the owner's going to get some credit for that, and I think justifiably so. But I think a little bit of his Hall of Fame has to do with what he's done for that league. The stadium set a new standard by which we all measure all of them. But he's made more money. I feel fairly safe in saying this. He's made more money with his different way of looking at the NFL universe. That from if Coke is the sponsor of the NFL, then Pepsi's going to be the sponsor of my stadium. That sort of other way of thinking about it. And he always pushes the envelope. He was not going to settle for taking less from network television as the NFL was about to do. He demanded more. Fox comes into the picture. He can't take all. So there's a big picture part of this thing. But the Dallas Cowboys, just to answer that question, I look at this offense. Conceivably, there could be 7 Hall of Famers on that offense. Those 3 offensive linemen, all to the Pro Bowl every single year. Jason Witten. You can't start better than Dak and Zeke did in their rookie year. And Dez, who knows? On the outside. But that is, now defensively, they dismantle their secondary. They've got all their suspensions on their defensive line. So the first month of the season, let's see. Can the defense do what they did last year?
Just to follow up on what Chris said in terms of what Jerry has done for the league,
yes.
He turned the league upside down in 1995 when he said, I don't like the way the marketing and merchandising are going. And Park Avenue went crazy. And I was in the middle of that because Jerry called me that day. We're doing the opening Monday night game, Dallas at the Giants. He says, I'm going to walk out onto the sideline with Phil Knight from Nike. And the league had a deal, I think, with Adidas at the time, or I can't remember with who. And he did it. And there was an earthquake on Park Avenue. But he was the guy who saw the opportunity to multiply increase what the revenue would be for the National Football League. And along the way, too, look, he's been a great, great showman. He's been terrific. And I said to him last night, it's fun covering him. And with the Dallas Cowboys, they are a team that you love or you detest, but you cannot ignore them. It's the Dallas Cowboys. When somebody says to me during the week, what's on this week? On Sunday night, I go, it's the Cowboys. They go, oh, yeah, great. It's the Dallas Cowboys. They make you pay attention. And he's known how to work that to the nth degree. The other thing about Jerry that people don't know, he's unbelievably philanthropic. This guy has been as charitable as any owner in the National Football League and does it fairly quietly, too. So, to me, he is so deserving of being here.
Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. This has been a blast, really. And then tonight, speaking of over the top in terms of entertainment, I'm hearing the Jones Bash is going to be insane.
I'm hearing
what can you tell me, Al?
I'm hearing that the MC of the Gold Jacket dinner is going to do a phenomenal job tonight.
To get it.
And we can all get out of there and go to the Jerry party.
No pressure. I'll get you out on time tonight. Don't worry. Al Michaels, Cris Collinsworth, you guys are the best.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that, please download our app. There's lots of fun things there other than just more of the videos you just saw. You can call us from the app. You can email us from the app. Just download it. Trust me, you'll enjoy it.